Hello there, my friends. Lauren Sisler here with AL.com, and it is week 8 of the SEC college football season, and SEC Insider brought to you by All South Appliance Group. We appreciate our sponsor this year. We appreciate all the support that they've given us, and we appreciate Matt Zenitz because he has been so supportive this year as well. Week 8 of the SEC college football season looking a little awkward as a lot of games have been canceled. We'll get to that in a minute, but I want to start off the top. I want to start with Alabama's running back situation, Trey Sanders injury status. What does this mean for that running back rotation? And tell everyone kind of a little bit of the backstory on what's happened with Trey Sanders and just the thought process there and what we know about it and how this impacts that rotation, through the remainder of the season.
Yeah, it's just a really sad situation. So Trey, obviously a former 5-star recruit, he was the highest ranked offensive player in Alabama's 2019 signing class, was going to be a factor for them last year, but unfortunately got hurt during the course of the preseason, recovered, got himself back for this year. Hey, it started to do some good things, specifically these last couple of weeks. And then unfortunately in a car accident down in his home state of Florida when went home for the bye weekend, and the injuries sustained in that car accident were serious enough that he's going to be knocked out for the rest of the year. So a sad deal with him, and also an unfortunate development for Alabama because once again, Trey had started to do some good things during the course of the last couple of weeks as a reserve running back behind guys like Najee Harris, and it leaves Alabama in a spot now where they're going to be dependent from a depth standpoint on some of their other young guys to step up and provide some of that depth to go along with guys like Najee Harris and Brian Robinson, who obviously will continue to lead the way, but you could potentially now see maybe somebody like Roydell Williams get some opportunities. And Roydell is a young guy who stood out, flashed, did some good things during the course of the preseason, somebody that they have been excited about in terms of his potential for moving forward. And now, once again, maybe could get some opportunities this year that maybe wouldn't have been available if Trey had been on the field and available.
Yeah, and you just hate to hear situations like that. I know as a former athlete myself, when you get that time off to be able to go home and be with family, it's always so meaningful. And obviously a terrible situation being in the car accident. Now, by all accounts, from what we know, is everything will be okay. He will make a full recovery and hopefully be back on the playing field. It just won't be in this short time frame that we have left remaining in this college football season. Is that correct, based on what we know from what Nick Saban has shared with us?
Yeah, Alabama's continued to say that he's expected to make a full recovery. So the injury is definitely serious. It'll be a process for him in terms of working back, but Alabama's continued to say that he's expected to make a full recovery, even though, once again, he's not expected to be back this season.
Yeah, and of course we know Alabama has, state-of-the-art, medical backing and obviously a staff there that will certainly, if there's a place that he can rehabilitate and do what he needs to get back on the field, it's going to be at Alabama. So certainly know he's in good hands there. All right, let's flip the script here to Auburn football. And here's an interesting thing to note. In the spring of 2019, it was Bo Nix, Joey Gatewood, and Malik Willis all competing for that starting job at Auburn, right? So now you got Joey Gatewood, he's at Kentucky. You got Malik Willis, who's at Liberty, and Nix, now the starting quarterback at Auburn. So I want to know from you, Z-Man. I like that nickname for you, buddy. Z-Man. I'm going to start calling you Peloton Man. I know that you ride that Peloton bike quite a bit too.
Grande might be more deserving of that than we just need to once again get Miss Sisler on there so she can join the Peloton crew.
Join the club. I know. I can
Speaking of Auburn, we got Tom Green as a Peloton user. Got your guy Cole Cuba as a Peloton user. The only thing missing is the combination of you and Talty. So
I know. Well, we got to get in it. Then we can have our own competition. That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, something about those New Jersey people, just haters of the Peloton for some reason.
That's right. Talty, I hope you're listening. Love it. All right. So if you're talking about these three quarterbacks, back on track. Sorry about that. Bo Nix, Joey Gatewood, Malik Willis, who at this point right now, when you watch their style of play and just what you've seen from them throughout the first 2/3 of this regular season, essentially, who do you think the best player right now out of those three is?
Well, last game for each of them provided an opportunity to see where each is at. So Joey actually is coming off his first college start. got his opportunity to go out there in Kentucky's last game. Bo obviously is been the starter the last couple of years at Auburn, and Malik getting his opportunity this year at Liberty. So for Bo is coming off his best game, not only of the season, but probably of his career, that performance against LSU, where had season high 300 passing yards, had a game high 80, 85 rushing yards, accounted for 4 total touchdowns, but at the same time, it's been up and down during the course of the year. Whereas with Malik, who was out of those three, the third guy in the competition coming out of the spring of 2019, enough that he ultimately decided to transfer. He's been clearly the best overall throughout the course of the season. Has been a big part of the success that Liberty, Hugh Freeze has had there this season. So, I mean, they're having an unprecedented year in terms of that program, 7-0. And once again, Malik has been a big part of that. So at this point, he is one of only 2 quarterbacks nationally to have at least 12 touchdown passes with fewer than 2 interceptions. And to go along with that, ranks first nationally among quarterbacks in rushing yards with in excess of 600 rushing yards. Having a great year.
Yeah, all good stuff. And you know, it's always interesting to see how you know, guys obviously decide to enter the transfer portal. They decide to take their talents elsewhere. And sometimes it works out better for them. Sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it does. And, you know, I know it's a tough place to be in because, you know, you want to go out, you want to compete, you want to put yourself in the best position you can. But it's tough, you know, it's a tough deal, but great to see the success as well for them. Now, as we kind of trail off into our third and final topic, you know, it's been an interesting week, as we mentioned. 4 SEC games have been postponed, right? 4 SEC games. Oh, there goes my my lovely autoplay. I was pulling up the schedule for everyone. So we have the Alabama LSU game, obviously postponed, Texas A&M at Tennessee, Georgia at Missouri, and Auburn at Mississippi State. All 4 of those games have been postponed due to COVID, due to contact tracing, and you know, kind of an interesting situation. So I'll first ask, let me see here. Francis Wells wants to know, will the Bama versus LSU game be rescheduled? What do we kind of know? I know there's been some conversations. At this point, it's really hard to know exactly what they're going to do, but I imagine those conversations are happening behind closed doors. What do you know about that, Zenitz, in terms of what could potentially be a rescheduled game and when and if that would take place?
Yes, I'll go back to what Ed Orgeron said yesterday during the SEC teleconference. "Quote unquote, your guess is as good as mine." So obviously things are changing on a daily basis in the SEC, especially with what's going on this week. So I think there's a lot up in the air, including the status of that game. But I will say, if I had to bet on it, I would not bet on that game being played at this point, especially considering it looks like Alabama is going to be in the SEC championship game based on what things are looking like right now. And as far as some of these games that are being rescheduled outside of the December 12th date, December 19th is another one that's been targeted as a makeup date. And obviously, if when Alabama's in the SEC title game, they'll have a different game they'll be playing in that day.
Yeah, I know there's some discussion about that, and certainly going to make things interesting for the college football playoff committee as they sort of navigate these waters. And then, of course, as the bowl selection process happens, you know, still several bowl games being played and kind of figuring all that out. So there's still a lot on the line, still a lot left to be played for. And I understand the importance of why these teams want to get these games in. But, you know, unfortunately, that buffer that they kind of built in kind of surpassed because of the bye week, right? So you get into the bye week and unfortunately, you can't turn back the clock there. So now they're having to figure out how they add that in on the back end. So with that being said, 3 games still in the SEC being played. So we got Vanderbilt at Kentucky, Arkansas at number 6 Florida, and South Carolina at Ole Miss. So, you know, it might be stating the obvious as to what game is the most appealing, but I want to get your take on that. What can we be excited about in the SEC this weekend of what is being played at this moment in time as we're recording this at, what is it, 10:29 a.m. on Thursday afternoon, because a lot can change. Thursday morning, I guess. Yep,
10:29 Central Time, Thursday morning. So I think we're on the same page here in terms of what's most interesting to us going into the weekend, and it's that Florida-Arkansas game. So Arkansas is going to be down their head coach. Sam Pittman obviously out while going through COVID protocol after testing positive. Florida may be down the best overall player on their team in Kyle Pitts, who is questionable while working through concussion protocol after getting dinged up during their last game. But it's an overall interesting matchup. So You have Florida, who's obviously the favorite to win the SEC East at this point, especially coming off their win against Georgia. But they're facing an Arkansas team that continues to exceed expectations this year. So Arkansas is actually one win away from matching their SEC win total from the previous, I want to say, 3 or 4 seasons combined. I think it's 4 seasons, where 2016 through 2019. So had 4 wins total those seasons, and 1 win away now of from matching that total this year. So 3-3 could easily be 4-2 if that call at the end of the Auburn game had gone differently. And one of the interesting things to watch in this one, you have a quarterback for Arkansas, Felipe Franks, who's done some great things this year. Since week 1, has 13 touchdown passes with only 1 interception, and will now be facing off against his former team in Florida.
Yeah, certainly an interesting matchup there and dynamic. And I had the opportunity to cover Arkansas twice this year for SEC Network. The Auburn game, which of course, as you mentioned, kind of the script could have been flipped there depending on the call at the end of the game. But then also against Texas A&M, a team that's having to sit out because of COVID. And, I can't say enough great things about Arkansas's head coach, Sam Pittman, just getting to work with him and be around him and get to know him sort of behind closed doors. Obviously, testing positive for COVID. He will not be coaching this week. But all that to say, just a great guy. And I think he's really changing the angle of that program and something that they've been desperate for. And you got to think about some of those seniors and those guys that have been in the mix for such a long time that probably have wanted to just give up and say, like, we're just destined to be this team that, hey, maybe we don't belong in the SEC. They've had those questions. Sam Pittman talked about the questions over and over that, do we even belong here? And he's trying to change that mentality and that culture. And I can see it on the sidelines from those guys. So that's a team that I'm certainly excited to continue watching, to grow and develop. We'll see what that translates as in the win column this year for them. It may or may not. But, I think there's definitely an upward trajectory.
Yeah, early favorite for SEC Coach of the Year. His work is right in line with some of the impressive work that you saw firsthand with Greg Schiano back in the day with Rutgers and what he did for that program. And I think I know the secret to Sam Pittman's success. So if I had to guess, he's probably a Peloton user that's raised his game to a different level, and where they're having this kind of success. If I had to guess.
It all comes full circle, my friends. All right, before we go, we did have someone, Ricky Green, wrote in. He said, what do you guys think about the top 4 just playing for the national championship and being done with it? So that basically means nobody else plays a game, play for the top 4. That's it, game over. Well, first of all, that means that we wouldn't have football throughout the month of December, or at least the latter part and the first part of January. So that would probably make a lot of fans not very happy. There's also a lot of money that goes into these bowl games. I know ESPN specifically has, I want to say, is it 35 of the 37 bowl games being played? So the fact that money obviously has been lost, in this process during COVID, I think it will be interesting, though, to see what the bowl season looks like, because are they going to let fans in the stands? What will that look like? Every bowl game be unique in its own decision on what that looks like based on its location? I don't know. Like, it's going to be interesting for sure.
Fortunately, regardless of what happens, we have Lauren Sisler to keep us informed down on the sidelines around the SEC world. So regardless whether you can be in the stadium or not, you have Lauren to keep you informed and up to speed in terms of what's going on. So,
hey, I will keep you informed. And hey, what's really cool this year, Montgomery gets 2 bowl games there in the Crampton Bowl. So is that right? The Crampton Bowl. Yes, that's in Montgomery. I had to make sure I had that right. It was Ladd Peebles. That's where the Senior Bowl was, obviously Mobile. There's obviously a game there, and then here in Birmingham for the Birmingham Bowl. So Alabama's got 4 bowl games this year. So it'd be pretty cool. Anywho, I appreciate you, Matt Zenich. You are the best. Tell the missus I said hello. I know she's teaching today. We got to hear her talking to her little kiddos. So that was fun. We got to see baby Z. So we appreciate it, and we appreciate all your hard work and your efforts, keeping us in the loop as always. And we also appreciate our sponsor, All South Appliance, proud sponsor of SEC Insider, inviting you to visit us online at myallsouth.com or to any one of our showrooms across Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida.